Today we will discuss about Databricks. So what is Databricks? Databricks is a cloud platform and it helps to work with big data, analytics, and artificial intelligence in one single place. Let me note it down high-level points. Analytics and artificial intelligence in one single place. And one of the advantage of Databricks is basically we heard about database, right? Databases, we have data warehouse, and we do have data lakes. Okay. So Databricks combines the best parts of data lakes and the best parts of data warehouse. So we don't need a separate systems for ETL reporting, and we do have machine learning as well under Databricks. So in general, Databricks is a lakehouse platform. So what is meant by lakehouse? So lakehouse is nothing but it is a combination of data lake and data warehouse. Okay. So whatever the best parts of the advantages of data lakes and the advantages of data warehouse, the combination of those two, which is called as lakehouse. So data lake stores in general, data warehouse, right? Data warehouse is like the structured on top of ETL, right? So we have like OLTP systems on top of online transactional processing systems. So we have an ETL layer, so extraction, transformation, and they do all the transformations and load the actual data into data warehouse. So data warehouse in general, it is used for mainly for business intelligence reporting purpose, and we can also go for high level aggregated data so that we can also even write SQL queries. Data lake, one of the advantage of data lake is it will store, one more point, data warehouse, it is like structured database, right? It will store all the structured information, structured data. But what about data lakes? Data lakes is it stores all the information, like all the information in the sense it will store raw data, and it is like it will store structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. Unstructured. So in general, like even though we have databases like the OLTP systems and all lab systems combination, that is what we have the ETL, the data warehouse concepts, right? So again, we have to load the data into data lakes, and instead of having the duplicate version of the data warehouse, what exactly the Databricks done is, so the combination of instead of duplicating the data in the data lake and also in the data warehouse, Databricks will store, it will take the advantages of lakehouse, data lake, and data warehouse. So that's the reason we do call as lakehouse platform or data lakes, like data lakehouse. So we have a data lake and data warehouse. The combination of lake and here in warehouse, it took the naming convention house. So that is what we do have a data lake house. So why Databricks is popular in general, basically as we discussed, right? So we'll discuss in detail. So it helps for data warehousing and business intelligence on top of whatever the data we have, right? So we are going to create those reports. And importantly, we do have the actual data engineering, ETL pipelines and orchestration, and also we have machine learning, artificial intelligence. But one of the advantages of, and one more strong point of a Databricks is Databricks works on any cloud, importantly AWS, Azure, and GCP, right? And it will use, so let me note it down a few points. So basically, it will work with AWS, Azure, and GCP. Okay, and it will also use open formats like Parquet. We have Delta. In general, majority of the cases we are going to work with Parquet and Delta. And basically, one of the advantages is like no vendor locking. So let's say if you're working with like specific databases, right? There is a vendor log, so you have to use that specific the code. Okay. So Databricks will work on any of the cloud, and it supports all the major languages, like it supports Python, Scala, R, SQL, and Java. Okay. And also it supports both batch and streaming process. So this is one of the advantage for orchestration and daily jobs. So this is great for data engineering and even for analytics. As I said, right, data engineering, analytics, and artificial intelligence. So what is the advantage of, we'll talk about Delta Lake, Delta. So on top of this, we have both Parquet and Delta, Parquet format and Delta. So one of the advantages of Delta Lake is, what is Delta Lake? Delta Lake is the data engine that makes whatever the data coming from the lakehouse, right? So, so the advantages of it is more reliable. So the advantages of Delta Lake provides asset transactions. I mean, you can read, write, right? So, and we have time travel, versioning, and importantly, we have schema enforcement, and audit history. So one more point here. So data warehouse, in terms of cost, data warehouse is a bit more cost than data lakes because it is structured and we have a fixed size and proper aggregated data ready for the business use case, right? A data lake, we do have raw data, structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. So all kinds of the structure or whatever the data we can save under data lakes. And on a high level, we have this data lakes and delta lake, sorry, the advantages of delta lake. We'll dive deeper whenever we are going to discuss in Databricks concept called as delta lake. And uh, we have a Unity catalog. So whenever we are going to create those tables, we can see all these options like asset transactions. We can update, we can insert data, we can delete the records, and we have those versioning. And we can go back, we can, let's say if you delete some set of data, even we can go back to the previous versions of the data. So that is what one of the advantages of Delta Lake formats. And one more point, so we have, go back to architecture. So we have workspaces, we have account, workspace, and importantly, we have control plane and data plane. Okay. So control plane, okay, we'll discuss on control plane. So workspace is basically whatever the workspace, right? So whenever we are going to create a Databricks account, and we will have, let's say if you are going to log in with Azure, so you'll have a Azure Databricks workspace, right? So when you create an account and when you create a service in Azure, so we can have a workspace. Similarly, you might have a number of workspaces. Importantly, so you may have dev. So when it comes to like workspaces, so we do have in our project, we have dev and we have discovery and we do have production. Okay, 3 workspaces. So it depends, like it's not every time we do have 3 workspaces, we may have only development and production workspace, or someone may have different naming conventions, dev, UAT, and production. Okay, but in our project, we have dev, discovery, and production. And what exactly the control plane and what exactly the data plane? Control plane, basically, it manages workspace. So control plane will have a workspace and we will manage jobs within the Databricks. Control plane resides under Databricks, okay, managed by Databricks. So you can see metadata storage, access control, and we have Unity catalog metadata. So this is what metadata storage, right? Meta stores Unity catalog metadata, and the access control, authentication and access controls, and cluster. So we have cluster here, but the cluster configuration management will take place in the control plane. Okay. So we have clusters under data plane, but the actual configuration of the clusters is under control plane, which is managed by Databricks. And the actual data resides under data plane. right? So whatever the cloud partner we are going to work, right, or the customer cloud account. So let's say Azure or AWS or GCP. So the actual data resides, but the data is not going to, let me go back to the next slide. You can see control plane and data plane. So you can see no raw data transfer. So no data is going to transfer into control plane, right? Because this is managed by Databricks. Even Databricks will handle the volumes. We have a concept called as volumes where we can store the data. We have Unity catalog, we have managed tables and external tables. So we have a lot of things, but still Databricks have a very good rapport with all these three clouds, and majority of the data resides on the cloud platforms. But when it comes like just a high level, so Databricks will have workspaces. I mean, the control plane managed workspace, jobs, cluster configuration, not clusters, but cluster configuration, this metadata management, Unity catalog, importantly, the unified governance, right? Unity catalog, that's the core. And the access control, the user creation. You have accounts, user management, groups, all the access controls, right? It takes place under managed by Databricks. Okay. No customer data is stored under Databricks. So, and for data plane, so we have clusters. And importantly, I forgot to mention SQL warehouse. So I actually have the Azure account, but I will create the Azure Databricks service, and I'll showcase in coming classes. But we have SQL data warehouse, DBFS, the files processing you can connect to ADLS, or let's say if you're working for AWS, you can connect to, you can get, I mean, you can connect to S3 paths, S3 buckets, access to ADLS S3, or even in GCP, we have GCS. Okay. So, and importantly, the actual, right? So the actual Databricks uses the Apache Spark, right? So Databricks uses Apache Spark as its a core processing engine. So, and it is generally Apache Spark, right? The Spark in general, it is it is an in-memory processing, and it is distributed. So we have a lot of concepts, like we have driver node, worker nodes, right? So we have those details. And so this Apache Spark, I mean, supports, I mean, the Databricks supports Python, Scala, or Java. That is what I mentioned here, right? And it will be working with structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. And so basically, like, yeah, for now, like, we'll close here. So we'll be discussing more into, so this is one of the very important concepts, delta lake. We have Parquet format and delta format, but why do we prefer delta? What are all the advantages of delta? We can go through that. But in general, the advantages of Databricks is Databricks provides a unified lakehouse. It's a unified lakehouse platform for all the data workloads, and it is open source. Importantly, even Delta Lake. So these are like open source, no vendor locking, and we have a Unity catalog. I mean, we'll go through those topics. Unity catalog, it's a governance, central governance, and unified governance, what we call those terminologies. And we have multi-cloud flexibility, as we discussed, like data plane and control plane, right? So data resides under any of the major clouds. And importantly, high performance. So we have computes, we'll discuss about serverless computes, classic computes, right? We have warehouse. So, so that's what, like, we have the advantages of Databricks is like it's an end-to-end data plus AI platform. Yeah. We'll discuss more in detail about what exactly the data lake and data warehouse. I want to discuss more into this as well. So this is, we have a lot of information. I have gone through a lot of articles, like what is data lake, what is data warehouse, and in data lake house, the advantages and uh, the disadvantages of both of these. Like, so the combination, whatever the important points we have from these two. So Databricks took the important features of those two functionalities and creates it's using a data lakehouse platform. Okay. Yeah, thanks for watching.